Boosie is in hot water with the feds. Him and J. Prince Jr. Mob ties.
When we left out the concert, we under the garage. Dude went to his car by himself and walked down to the parking lot. That's when somebody tried to rob him and killed the dude. What the hell my 19-year-old cousin gonna try to rob and kill somebody? Bro, we getting money, man.
Boozie is reportedly under federal scrutiny for allegedly setting up Duke the jeweler and luring him into a situation that ultimately led to his death after a dice game connected to J. Prince Jr. in Houston. Before getting into the deeper implications, it's important to walk through how this situation is alleged to have unfolded because the details are shocking. And before diving in, make sure to like and subscribe, because this story touches on a side of street politics and industry relationships that most people never hear about. This isn't just gossip. It's about alleged organized crime hiding behind hip-hop culture. To understand the gravity of what happened, you first have to understand who Duke the jeweler was. Duke wasn't just another jeweler out of Chicago, was one of the most respected names in the Midwest. He built his business from the ground up, earning trust from local artists, major rappers, and even professional athletes. His reputation was solid. According to reports, Duke was contacted by Boozie about creating a custom jewelry piece. Duke had worked with artists before, but Boozie was a different level of client to Louisiana rap legend with deep industry and street ties. A deal like that had the potential to significantly elevate Duke's business. What raised eyebrows, however, was Boozie's request that Duke travel to Houston rather than handle the business in Chicago or Louisiana. Boozie allegedly told him about a major Labor Day weekend event, suggesting that numerous celebrities would be present and that Duke could secure multiple high-profile orders. The opportunity sounded too good to pass up. Duke appeared excited about the trip, and even shared his plans on social media, talking about Houston and the business possibilities ahead. Tragically, he had no way of knowing that this trip would end in his death. Some commentators have since pointed to J. Prince Jr., alleging that this incident fits a broader pattern. According to these claims, J. Prince Jr. has long been accused of targeting out-of-town rappers, athletes, and business figures visiting Houston. The alleged method involves identifying high-value targets through industry connections, learning their movements, their finances, and the jewelry they are wearing, then positioning them in vulnerable situations. Then comes the approach. According to people familiar with the situation, J. Prince Jr. doesn't move reckless or confront anyone directly. Instead, he allegedly presents himself as a Houston street figure who wants to show hospitality to visitors. He'll reach out through social media, use mutual connections, and lean on introductions from people the target already trusts. Everything is designed to feel organic and legitimate. Once that comfort is established, the real play is set to begin. He allegedly takes visitors around Houston, shows them love, introduces them to members of his circle, and makes them feel like they are being welcomed into an exclusive inner network. On the surface, it looks like hospitality, but critics claim it's really about building trust and lowering defenses. According to street accounts, the plan with Duke was straightforward. Let him win small at first to boost his confidence, then introduce rigged dice to slowly take everything back. The goal wasn't violence, it was allegedly to clean him out financially and send him back to Chicago broke. But something reportedly went wrong. Sources claim Duke somehow ended up playing with the real dice instead of the manipulated ones. Whether it was a mix-up, confusion, or an accidental switch, no one seemed certain, but the outcome was undeniable. Duke started winning, and he didn't stop. By the end of the night, he had allegedly won more than $645,000. That's when the atmosphere reportedly changed. Duke was taking money from everyone at the table, including individuals who were not accustomed to losing, especially not their own money. Tension began to rise as a supposed scam flipped in the opposite direction. The trick's magnetic tables, loaded dice seated didn't matter anymore once legitimate dice were in play.
Man,
According to people who were there, Boozie was standing directly behind Duke during the dice game, and several witnesses noticed that he kept whistling. At the time, it didn't seem strange. People assumed he was just joking around. But in hindsight, many now believe those whistles may have been signals, a way of communicating with others in the room as the situation started slipping out of control. What makes it even more tragic is that Duke was reportedly being respectful the entire time. Even while winning large amounts of money, he wasn't taunting anyone or acting arrogant. But according to street narratives, simply winning that much money, especially from the wrong people, was the worst possible outcome. Once Duke finished the game, the mood in the room allegedly shifted instantly. What had felt friendly and welcoming reportedly turned cold and tense. The idea of an out-of-town jeweler walking away with more than $500,000 was something certain people weren't willing to accept. Based on alleged witness accounts and what's been circulating in the streets, there was supposedly a meeting after the dice game ended. Boozie, J. Prince Jr., and others in their circle are said to have discussed how to recover the money. According to these claims, this wasn't a spontaneous reaction, it was allegedly calculated. They reportedly knew Duke planned to attend Boozie's concert the following night, giving them time to plan, track his movements, determine where he was staying, and set up an ambush. Street sources claim Duke was followed throughout the day. When the confrontation finally happened in the parking lot, Duke reportedly tried to defend himself, but he was outnumbered and outgunned. According to these accounts, the attackers came fully prepared, while Duke was simply trying to get back to his hotel. The shooting was described as fast and violent. Duke was struck multiple times, and those responsible allegedly took the money he had won at the dice game along with his jewelry before fleeing. Afterward, attention shifted to Boozie's response. Shortly after Duke's death, Boozie released multiple videos publicly distancing himself from the incident. In them, he expressed sadness, spoke highly of Duke, and stated that violence was not his lifestyle. Critics, however, have described these statements as performative, questioning their sincerity given the circumstances surrounding the events.
Some dudes tried to rob him. See some dudes that tried to rob me and walked off by himself.
Boozie also attempted to push a narrative that Duke lost money at the dice game, even though multiple people familiar with the situation insist Duke actually won big that night. That version of events immediately raised questions. Boozie claimed Duke wasn't upset about losing, but critics point out that it doesn't add up. Someone who allegedly walked away with over $600,000 wouldn't be angry about a loss that never happened in the first place. What further fueled suspicion was how Boozie's account of what happened after the concert kept changing. In one version, he said Duke left alone. In another, he claimed Duke was with other people. Later, his story shifted again. To many observers, those inconsistencies stood out. When someone is telling the truth, the core details usually stay the same, but here, the narrative kept evolving. The part that drew the most backlash, however, was Boozie's public response afterward. In multiple videos, he appeared to center himself in the aftermath of Duke's death, talking about how the internet was blaming him, how people were being unfair, and how the situation was affecting his mental health. Critics felt that instead of focusing on the loss of life, he positioned himself as a victim of the story. To a lot of people watching from the outside, that response came across as tone-deaf. A man had been killed, and yet the conversation seemed to shift toward damage control and public image rather than accountability or clarity about what really happened.
Now y'all got us all the way up, man. We met that dude, Duke the jeweler, the night before. We was gambling. The next day, dude followed us to the concert. When we left out the concert, we under the garage. Dude went to his car by himself and walked down to the parking lot. That's when somebody tried to rob him and killed the dude. What the hell my 19-year-old cousin gonna try to rob and kill somebody? Bro, we getting money, man. We get fucking money. That ain't our stilo. As a boss, I ain't letting that go down like that, man. This dude finna make me a piece. So y'all need to kill that. That's bad low, man. Don't put us in nothing with no bad low. It's bad low, man.
Many viewers felt the sympathy Boozie showed in his videos came off as forced. Instead of genuine grief, people described it as performance. Critics argue that real mourning doesn't look staged for the camera, and the harder Boozie tried to appear innocent, the more suspicious it seemed to some observers. Online investigators began digging deeper. Fans claimed they found video evidence showing Boozie's nephew leaving the building shortly before Duke was shot. From there, internet sleuths pieced together timelines using security footage, social media posts, and alleged witness accounts, attempting to reconstruct what happened step by step. One of the most shocking claims to circulate online involved Duke's Louis Vuitton bag containing jewelry. According to online discussions, the bag was allegedly found at Boozie's residence. Boozie reportedly said Duke had asked him to hold on to it during the dice game, but critics questioned why the bag wasn't immediately returned to Duke's family after his death. To many, the explanation didn't sit right. As the case gained attention, social media users began linking Duke's death to other controversial incidents involving J. Prince Jr. and people associated with him. They pointed to patterns of out-of-town artists allegedly being robbed or harmed after dice games in Houston, arguing that Duke's case might be part of a broader, ongoing issue rather than an isolated event. As online scrutiny intensified, observers noticed a shift in Boozie's demeanor. Instead of continuing to present himself as a grieving friend, he appeared increasingly angry that people were connecting dots and asking questions. Boozie posted videos criticizing internet detectives and keyboard warriors, which some interpreted as defensive. To critics, that reaction raised more questions, arguing that someone innocent would welcome efforts to uncover the truth, not lash out at them. Boozie also attempted to discredit evidence circulating online, responding to claims about phone records, fingerprints, and witness statements. However, skeptics felt his explanations were inconsistent or unconvincing. Many pointed out that he seemed more focused on defending his reputation than mourning Duke or calling for justice. Things escalated further when members of Boozie's own family became involved publicly. His brother, TQ, came forward claiming he had receipts that proved Duke was set up. That revelation shocked many observers, as accusations coming from within the family carried added weight. TQ and Boozie reportedly had a long history of conflict involving money and business disputes. Court records have referenced allegations that TQ stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from Boozie and interfered with his business dealings. Despite that history, the Duke situation appeared to push TQ to speak out more directly than ever before. On social media, TQ began hinting that he knew the real story behind Duke's death and suggested that Boozie was not as innocent as he claimed. He implied that he possessed evidence that could expose the entire setup, adding yet another layer of controversy to an already explosive situation.
You think niggas wake up and just choose Boosie to steal from? You don't think there's better people to steal from? Like, it's not fucking happening. Boosie is not a victim, dog. Like, that nigga ain't no... Boosie is a fucking villain.
This is where the story takes an even darker turn. Some observers believe the situation involving Duke may be connected to what happened to Takeoff from Migos. Both incidents reportedly involved dice games in Houston. Both were tied, at least socially, to the same circle around J. Prince Jr., and in both cases, young, successful men lost their lives in situations involving money, jewelry, and perceived disrespect. To many people watching from the outside, the similarities are impossible to ignore. Critics argue that when the same sequence of events keeps repeating, it stops looking like coincidence and starts looking like a pattern. According to this perspective, successful artists or businessmen come to Houston, get invited into private dice games framed as exclusive or friendly gatherings, and when something goes wrong, whether it's money, ego, or pride, the consequences turn deadly. If true, that suggests predatory behavior rather than isolated incidents. That raises an even more disturbing question for some commentators. How many other victims might there be that the public never hears about? How many people may have been lured into similar situations and didn't make it home? How many families could be grieving quietly, without national attention or headlines? Public figures like Charleston White have been outspoken about these concerns for years. He has repeatedly warned people about what he describes as a dangerous environment surrounding certain Houston street circles. According to him, check-in culture isn't about hospitality or protection, it's about identifying successful outsiders, tracking their movements, and determining what they have. People also point to parallels between the two high-profile cases. Takeoff was killed following a dice game where money and respect were reportedly in play. Duke's death allegedly followed a dice game where he won a significant amount of money from people who weren't accustomed to losing. Different circumstances, but strikingly similar dynamics.